Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services here this morning, we would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
Good morning, first of all, and sure I'll be the first but not the last to say thank you for being here this morning, accompanying one who has passed from this world and being with those who today enter into a period of mourning is considered to be a sacred task in our tradition, and you are fulfilling it through your presence, whether here or online. I'm Rabbi David Englander of Congregation Bethel, and here on behalf of our Chazan, Lisa Pomeranz Borough, who is on some very well-deserved vacation, and our Rabbi Emeritus, recently retired Rabbi Aaron Krupnick, who had nothing but beautiful things to say about Margie. It's my sad honor to officiate today as we try to structure these spiritually chaotic moments to allow for the one most important theme that the rabbis assigned to the Jewish funeral service, that theme being honor, to honor the life of Marjorie Goldstein and to honor those who mourn her loss through prayers, through psalms, through memories, and ultimately through the rituals that Margie, as a very proud Jew her whole life, would have anticipated being provided for her, and that you are fulfilling her wishes by providing her today. That is also the fulfillment of responsibility, and in that there is also honor. So I'll start by reading two of the Psalms that have been selected by our rabbis of old for these moments. After that, we'll call on family who will be sharing thoughts, memories, and something of her lasting legacy. Then the concluding prayers here in the chapel as well, before heading to the cemetery for those who are able to do so. First, Psalm 15, which reminds us what it means to live a good life, and in hearing the description of the psalmist describing a good life, you will no doubt remember some aspects of Margie's life, for her long journey through this world was also a good and a meaningful one. Mizmor David. Mi agor b'holecha mi yishkon b'har kadshecha holech tamim u'fuad tzedek v'dover emet b'yovavo lo raga al lishono lo asa l'r'eu ra'av v'cherpa lo nasa krovo nivzeh be'inav nimas ve'et yirad ne'echabe nishba lahara v'lo yamir kaspo lo natan b'neshech v'shochad al nakilo lakach ose ele lo yimot le'olam. A Psalm of David. Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity, do what is right, speak the truth without deceit, have no slander upon your tongue, do no evil to others. Do not mistreat your neighbor, spurn a contemptible person, but honor those who revere Adonai. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Practice all of your business fairly. Accept no bribe against the innocent. Make these deeds your own, then shall you stand firm forever. Psalm 23, which refers to the Gate Samavet, the valley of the shadow, interpreted as the valley of the shadow of death, this darker time period that we walk through, surrounded, accompanied by, and supported by family, loved ones, and friends as we travel this path of mourning. Mizmor David. Adonai ro'i lo echsar binoteshe arbitzeni al mei menuchot yinahaleni Nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'magle tzedek l'man shemo gam ki elech beget samavet lo yirara ki atayim adi shivtecha umishantecha hema yanachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorai tishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosi ravaya ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai le'orech yamim, a Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me to lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul and guides me in straight paths for God's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. First speaker this morning will be Jonathan.
My name's Jonathan Harris. For those who don't know me, I was Margie's first child. I want to thank all of you for coming today. From near and far, she's touched so many people. She's improved the lives of so many, including mine. And I just wanted to share with you and honor her in the way that a son can only honor his mother. I was born on March 18th, 1958. That's a millennium ago, seemingly. And Mom had a story she told over and over again. Jonathan, it took me 3 days to deliver you. I was in labor for 3 days, it almost killed me. And I got so tired of hearing that after a while, when I grew up, I flipped the narrative on her, and I said, Mom, you just didn't want to let me go. But that was kind of the way our relationship was, you know. It was her wanting to hold on while instilling in me the energy, the strength to become independent, yet we had a very tight bond because I would push away and pull back, and that's the way it went with our lives. But as I got older, I loved her more and more deeply. Mom was brought up as an elegant young woman, a Jewish woman in the rural South, where social norms were strict. She was a debutante, and she lived that debutante life. She wore the finest clothes because her parents were in the clothing business. She always had nice dresses, gowns, and whatnot. You should have seen what she looked like when she went to the prom. She looked like a queen. And yet there was something of a wild child inside of her. So when she went away to college and she met my father, she hitched her wagon to Crazy Town. And he drug us all over the South and ultimately drug us up here to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where she unhitched her wagon and said, I'm not sticking with this wagon train another second. So he rode off into the sunset, and she drove her flagpole onto the top of Cherry Hill and said, we're staying and we're going to make it. She raised 4 children on a bank teller's salary. And with the help of her father, our great Zeta leader, who helped subsidize our living, we made it up here. She made it. And as hard as it was, the cultural shock that resonated with us for many, many years, as hard as that was, she would constantly say, we're not giving up, we're not giving up, we're not giving up. She was resolute in her determination to make it here and to raise 4 children the right way and to keep us out of trouble and to make sure we went on the right path and did not veer off into drugs and prostitution and God knows what else. She was careful with us. Anyway, as our relationship grew and I got older, I went to law school and I went to Miami after I graduated law school in 1984, which also seems like 100 years ago. And I've been there for 40 years. I knew my mom for 65 years, and thankfully, I was able to come back up here to tell her goodbye, and on June 15th, which is when Dead & Company played Citizens Bank Park, and then last weekend. And I saw her declining, but we spent time together, and that was important to me. And when I was with her on June 15th, I said, "Mom, you are one tough lady." And she said, "I am tough. I am tough." She was elegant, she was respectful, she was mannered, she knew what was right, and she was religious, and she loved being Jewish, but she was tough as nails. And she taught me that. And that's one reason I think that I became a lawyer, or she guided me in that direction. And I became a lawyer over the last 20 years of my life, fighting the good fight, suing the tobacco industry for killing 20 million Americans in this country. But having said that, I wouldn't have been who I am today with the same resoluteness, the same resilience, were it not for my mom. I just want to say that today is a glorious day. I am not brought low by her death. I am uplifted by her life. I'm here to celebrate her life. It's worthy of celebration, and I do appreciate the outpouring of sympathy and condolences, and they're well-deserved and well-taken. But I want you to know, Mom said to me the last time I saw her, "I'm ready to go to heaven," and that's where she is today. The thing that really brings me to tears, though, is that I talk to her every day, practically, of her life, every other day, certainly, and every third day, if not every other day. And I almost felt like I had two moms, a telephone mom and a real mom. And so when she passed this past week, I would routinely get in my car either in the morning or after work, and I would dial her number. And now all it does is go straight to voicemail. And that hurts. That hurts. But I'll get over it, and I'll persevere, and so will my siblings, and so will her grandchildren, who she loved more than her children. And I can tell you that, all of you. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. And God bless all of you. And God bless Margie, Sarah, Leader, Harris, Goldstein.
Thank you very much. Esther and Joshua come up together.
Mine's short and sweet. I never really thought I would ever have to write a eulogy for my mom. In my mind, she was so strong and loved life. I guess I just really thought she would live forever. Even when she developed this crazy lung heart issue out of nowhere, I just knew she could beat it. She had so much inner strength and such a joy for living. Her mind was sharp as a tack. She loved crossword puzzles, reading books, reading the newspaper, and watching Jeopardy! Every night at 7:30, I would call her so we could answer the final Jeopardy! Question together. Maybe 9 times out of 10, she knew the answer, and we would say, "You're a genius." On our last evening together, I was about to leave her room, and she said, "Don't leave, the final question is coming." I actually knew the answer for a change, and she said, "You're a genius." And I said, "Mom, I knew the answer, Picasso's painting of Guernica, because you took us to see it in New York City." And she said, "I did?" And I said, "Yes. My mom took us to many museums, plays, musicals, ballets, and performances when we were young. In fact, the very first concert I ever saw was James Taylor with my mom at the Mann Music Center. I remember she wore faded jeans and knew all the songs and words and somehow seemed cool to me in that moment, which was strange for a 14-year-old girl. My mom and I shared a very special bond. She was my best friend. We spoke every day. We laughed a lot and we gossiped about everything. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do without her, or who I will call at 7:30 every night during Final Jeopardy, or who I will call every time I have something good or bad to tell her. I'm just so glad I had the time that I did with her, and especially that my children, her grandchildren, whom she loved most in the world, had so much time with her, although it never seems like enough. I love you, Mom. I always will. Please watch over us from heaven with all of our departed loved ones and keep us safe. We will miss you forever. Take deep breaths. Just take deep breaths. Take deep breaths.
Okay. I want to thank you all for being here as well today to honor my mother. I'm Josh Harris. I was her youngest child. I wrote a eulogy, but it's going to be difficult for me to get through because I'm a crier
I'm going to help you.
and
I'm going to help.
my handwriting is atrocious. And my sister gave me the smallest paper in the house to write on, so. But I'm going to do my best. And okay, so let's go. Let's see. I think I speak for a lot of us in this room when I say I lost my best friend this week. We are all gathered here today for one reason, and it's not so much to memorialize Margie. It's because we all loved Margie. She was a wonderful mom, an exceptional bubby, and most of all, an incredible friend. I spoke to her on the phone almost every day and told myself that I was calling to cheer her up. But by the end of the conversation, I would realize just the opposite, that her optimism and good cheer had truthfully cheered me up. My mom aged like fine wine. She became sweeter and more resplendent with each passing year. She could be a stern parent when she was raising 4 kids on her own. And believe me, raising Jonathan, Lynn, Esther, and myself didn't offer many easy days. But later in life, when we were on our own and Grandpa Sam had entered the picture, Margie blossomed. She became happy and more carefree, loving, kind, and a wonderful friend, Mom and Bubby. We would sit at the breakfast table when we were together, and she would talk about all of her friends and family and all of the gossip of the day. That time I would call Bubby Mises with Bubby. And I would tell her she should have her own morning radio talk show. That same table would also be the scene of countless spaghetti dinners on which we would bring our family together for laughs and joy and cheer. It's where Bubby would see her grandbabies and listen to their tales of school and camp and activities, and as we would all fill up on her delicious spaghetti. Along with her family, Mom also loved Myrtle Beach and Whiteville, North Carolina. We would travel down each summer to be with the cousins, and Mom would typically get pulled over by what she liked to call a shamus around Delaware and receive a speeding ticket. And we would have to make the remainder of the 11-hour trip driving 55 miles an hour. Mom always loved sitting out at Myrtle Beach, watching her children and grandchildren play and grow up. With each passing year, talking with her siblings, Shirley, Brenda, Robert, and Paul, and her parents, Yetta and Herman, always telling us stories of her childhood growing up at the beach and tales of the once glorious Ocean Forest Hotel. But the thing that Mom loved more than anything in the world was her grandkids. She loved to visit with them and talk to them on the phone or on FaceTime. Her eyes would light up every time she would see my kids, Dylan and Zoe, or any of her grandkids. She would send them a card with each Hallmark holiday, with well wishes and a $5 bill included. She was the greatest bubby in the world. My mom also had unique sayings and phrases that always entertained us. She would often say, "As I live and breathe," when she found something confounding, or "Believe you me," when she wanted to exclaim her point. She would say, "I don't care one iota," when she wanted us to know she didn't hold something in high regard. And when her friends were sickly and required an EMT, they were always taken away by the rescue wagon. And when she went to get her hair done, she would go to see Sammy at the beauty parlor. My mom also loved her Eagles and Phillies, and we would spend countless hours watching the games and talking about the merits and shortcomings of the teams, coaches, and competitors. But the greatest role my mom played was that of a friend. That is the reason we have all gathered today, because we all loved spending time. We all loved spending time with her, eating meals with her, watching movies with her, and hearing her joyous laughter and seeing her beautiful smile. She filled all of our lives with cheer and joy and optimism and hope and ultimately love. I want to say one last time, Geh schlafen schöne Mädel. Rest in peace until we all meet again on the shores of Myrtle Beach, searching for shells as a warm sunset shimmers across the horizon, looking over the old Ocean Forest Hotel.
Invite up all the grandchildren this time.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lila, and for those of you who don't know me, I am Bubby's 5th grandchild out of 11. Thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of our Bubby, Marjorie Goldstein. Bubby was a remarkable person with many talents. She won Best Dressed Student in her high school. She was an amazing cook. She could talk for hours about almost any subject. And her handwriting belongs in the Library of Congress. Perhaps her greatest talent, however, was being a grandmother. No one could ask for a more present, nurturing, supportive, or loving grandmother. I know I speak for all of us when I say it was truly a blessing to have had her as our Bubby. We hope to convey this blessing to all of you with a few of our favorite Bubby moments. My Bubby would not want me to share any funny stories about her with you today. She would want me to focus on how lovely and gracious she was, and while that could not be more of the case, not talking about her humor would be a shame. In fact, she had very clear instructions for how this day should go. She told us years ago at a family Shabbat dinner that her podiatrist had 8 grandkids. And his grandkids were his pallbearers. And she said, well, I have 11 grandkids. And if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. Every week I call her on Fridays, and every week she makes me laugh. So to start off, I'd like to share this quick, funny memory. First, what you should know is that Bubby came to everything. Max's plays, Jacob's choir concerts, Victoria's horseback riding, it didn't matter. Bubby was always there. When I was about 10 years old, I was in a dance recital, dancing at a studio in the area called Marcia Highland. And before my dances, I was sitting in the audience with Bubby, and she goes, well, Marcia Highland was a wonderful dancer and teacher, Oliver Shalom. and going on, and basically writing Marcia Highland's eulogy. While this is happening, Marcia Highland herself gets on the stage. And I go, Bubby, that's Marcia Highland right now. And she goes, I thought she died. And wasn't fazed at all. Her greatest strength as a Bubby, and what I'll miss most about her, is that she was my biggest cheerleader. I'll miss her picking up the phone and gasping with excitement, Lala! Everything I did, every accomplishment, big or small, she was there. Physically there and present. Yes, she never missed an event or a celebration, but it was so much more than her ability to just show up. It was her enthusiasm that made you feel you had done something so special, that no matter who you were, you mattered, just because you were her grandchild and she was your Bubby. So if there's one thing I'd like you to take away from this speech, it is to never hold back on sharing your joy and excitement for the ones you love. Show up often and really be there for others. Let them know you're proud of them just because. Bubby, I love you so much, and I speak for all of us when I say we will miss you. Say hi to Grandpa Sam for us.
Thank you for sharing those precious memories, reflections, aspects of the legacy of a very special person to all of you. So, as Bethel's newest rabbi, it was an honor for me to learn that Margie and her family have been affiliated with our congregation since 1971. Which is also how long I have been affiliated with this world. So for my whole lifetime, this family has celebrated, mourned, learned, and prayed at and with Bethel, and I am grateful for that. And we stand with you on this day that marks a difficult, yet also affirming transition from this world of an irreplaceably special person in your lives. We are grateful that Margie was blessed with her full capacities until the end of her 89-and-a-half-year journey, and that she was such a kind, smart, sweet, funny, gentle, and genteel presence in the lives of so many. Almost everything there is to say about your beloved mother, sister, grandmother, and friend is tied up in her common Southern roots. In an article that she hand-wrote reflecting on her childhood for the Saltzman House publication, she described her small town of Whiteville, North Carolina, as having only a handful of Jewish families and as having been 50 miles from the nearest synagogue, which they traveled to for Sunday school, because of course they did. And to think that sometimes kids and maybe their parents don't want to make the trek from the west side of Cherry Hill over to Voorhees. She also reflects on how there were 78 kids in her high school graduating class, and how the year was punctuated by the tobacco harvest and its storage and processing. Just your average Jewish American experience. Her uncommon childhood, at least for those of us much more familiar with the more common Jewish immigrant experience that involved life in big cities, would eventually lead her to her early career as a school teacher, and as I always say at Bethel, we love our educators. She earned a master's degree in education, which was a rare feat for a woman of her generation. And as the only white teacher in an all-black elementary school, she was and remained committed to equality of access to education, a social justice stance that is carried forward in a variety of ways by her children and family. She would hold other jobs, the bank and the by-hand craft gallery that she bought, ran, and later sold, where she put her business smarts to good use, much of which were learned from the prior generation that ran department stores in the South. The family remembers that these operations were also committed to charitable work, as well as to putting in many hours to make the business successful. And a work ethic is something this family has also inherited, with the accomplishments, credentials, and degrees to prove it. It was lovely to learn about her marriage to Sam, how you welcomed someone from a very small family into this very large one, and how grateful you were that together they explored life in ways that were closed off to her earlier, and how her 11 grandchildren were truly the joys of her life as the world's greatest bubby. As you heard, she was not inclined to miss any performance, presentation, sports event, or even the chance to be with you if you were homesick from school, as kids sometimes tend to be. Your multi-generation holiday gatherings will be part of the great and expansive memory file you have of someone who knew about how it always seems to be either Rosh Hashanah or Passover, along with the Jewish identity and commitments that were a strong part of her life for her whole life. At the Saltzman House, and I acknowledge her friends and the staff there who mourn with the family today, Margie loved going to all of the activities, which included bingo, poker, listening to and singing Broadway songs, which she loved, and she found a way to expose you to when you were younger, as you said. She was very cultured and made sure you would have a foundation of the beauty, wisdom, drama, and music that would remain parts of your lives going forward. I think just about anyone would be very pleased if part of their legacy included the glowing terms with which you described your honored mother. That everyone fell in love with her, that she talked to everyone and took a genuine interest in their lives, and that she made friends everywhere she went. This is part of a great tribute to a truly wonderful person, as Rabbi Krupnik described her, a true Southern lady, someone whose legacy will echo down through the generations as the story of her life is told, by which many will be inspired to emulate her example, each in your own way. I extend my condolences and those of Congregation Bethel to Margie's children, Jonathan Harris, Lynn Schwartz Stein, and Perry Stein, to Dr. Esther Harris and Andrew Yankowitz, and to Joshua Harris, to her siblings, Paul, Shirley, and Brenda, to grandchildren and their spouses, Elliot and Maya Harris, Julian and Victoria Harris, Samuel and Jesse Schwartz, Lila and Danny Reisner, Max Hanna and Jacob Yankowitz and Dylan and Zoe Harris, and to all of Margie's other relatives and friends who mourn her passing. Tenishma Tatsura B'tzura Chaim, may the soul of Marjorie Goldstein be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. May have this information in print or communicated through a variety of other means. I want to remind everyone that Shiva will take place at the Harris and Yankowitz home today following interment with a service at 5:30 p.m., as well as Monday and Tuesday from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. with a service at 7 p.m., both of those evenings. Also on Monday, Shiva will be held in Philadelphia at the home of Lynn and Perry Stein, with visitation from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and a service at 7 o'clock p.m. This time I'll invite all of those who are reasonably comfortable to do so to rise for the El Maleh memorial prayer invoking Margie's Hebrew name and those of her parents. El Maleh Rachamim Shochein Bam Romim Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Ashchina Bima Alot Kedoshim Utorim Kezohara Kiyamaz Hirim Et Nishmat Matol Sara Bar Yehuda Tzvi Vieta Shel Chalo Olama Bigan Eden Tehei Menuchata Ana Balarachamim Hastira Beseter Kanafecha Olamim Utzura Bitzura Chaim Et Nishmata Adonai hu nachlata v'tanuach b'shalom amishkava v'nomar amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of Matal Sora Bat Yehuda Tzvi Vieta, Marjorie Goldstein, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. I invite you to be seated for another few moments.
We would ask if you would all rise once more, please. I will ask everyone to kindly take seats for just a moment, please. So from here, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to Locustwood Memorial Park. There will be driving directions out on your cars if you are going to be going to the cemetery. So we'll ask everyone at this point, we're going to dismiss from the front of the chapel to the back. We'll ask you if you could start to make your way to your cars, beginning with this row here and this row here. Thank you so much.